Happy New Year, everyone, and lots of people in the back. Very exciting. Let's call to order the Fire and Police Commission meeting on January 23rd, 2025 at 4:04 p.m. Ms. Clerk, can you conduct roll call?
Chair Dozer?
Here.
Vice Chair Hill?
Here.
Commissioner Herlinger?
Present.
Commissioner Jones?
Aki.
Ms. Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Chair Dozer, we do not have any changes to the agenda.
Do we have any cards for public comment?
Chair Dozer, we do not have any online or in-person public comment.
Thank you. Can you please read today's first agenda item?
Item 5, approval of meeting minutes from November 21st, 2024.
Are there any changes to that item?
Chair Dozer, we do not have any changes.
Is there any public comment on this item?
Chair Dozer, we do not have any online or in-person public comments.
Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Second.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Herlinger, seconded by Commissioner Hill. I think. Close enough? Oh, one of these guys. Okay. Let's go ahead and vote.
Motion to approve the November meeting minutes passes.
All right. Next agenda item.
Item 6, Chair and Vice Chair nominations and appointments.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Herlinger as our next chair.
Second.
I would also like to nominate Commissioner Hill to remain vice chair.
Second.
Great. Is there any public comment on this?
Chair Dozer, no, we do not have any in-person or online public comment.
All right, let's take a vote.
Motion to approve Commissioner Herlinger as chair and Commissioner Hill as vice chair passes.
Yay. I just wanted to do that once, so here you go.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please read the next agenda item?
Item number 7, annual toll rotation program and toll fee schedule review.
Okay, is there any public comment? Is there any public comment?
Chair Herlinger, we do not have any online or in-person public comment.
Chair, I think before we go to public comment, if we can let staff do their presentation and then let the commission ask questions, then we can open it up to public comment. We'll do it that way. Thank you.
So moved.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Hope everyone had a wonderful new year. So I'm just going to give a brief introduction, and then I'm going to have our traffic investigator, our phenomenal traffic investigator, no pressure, Ed Casper, will provide you with the presentation, and then we're here to answer any questions. I just want to preface this with, this is supposed to be an annual item that becomes before Fire and Police Commission. So that will be, we will be bringing that every January to the Fire and Police Commission to go over fees and the tow rotation if there's any changes to that. So I just want to put that out there. This is an annual, and we will be doing this annually. We got a little off schedule, and now we're writing that wrong path that we veered off on. So we'll be doing this every January. All right, Ed, all you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Like I said, Officer Casper, I'm here to talk about the tow rotation program and a fee update. On these slides here, it'll explain We have 6 tow companies that we use in our rotation. We should have representatives from most of them here. There might be one missing, I'm not sure. But these are the 6 tow companies that we use for all our on-call, our rotation for towing vehicles in this city. Of these 6 companies, I do inspections of their tow yards. So when I did the inspections this year, all were in compliance. There's a myriad of things I have to inspect there. After that, we also had a meeting with all the tow operators, the heads of the tow companies. We talked about some of the issues they're having, what we're looking for as the police department, what they're looking for as the tow company. So we're trying to work together because we need them and they said they need us as well. So we just have a few things we're working out together. One of the things I realized as taking over as tow compliance officer is that there hasn't been a fee update since 2022. And we know cost of living has increased. There's things that have increased. And I'm taking that upon myself that I failed to do that the last couple of years. So I'm trying to right that wrong right now. So I'll have that later in the slides. But right now we talked about what they need and what we need. One of the big things is response times. We have it in our tow regulations that a company will show up within 20 minutes during regular working hours because we want to get that vehicle moved from blocking the roadway and we get traffic flowing again in the city. 30 minutes on off times after hours. So Chief Gordon's, we're talking about, that's a big deal, right? It's a public nuisance, I guess I would say. They just want the streets flowing. So we're working with the tow companies to get those times set. We're working on that. The other thing is for us, their rotation is per call. So every tow company is on rotation every day. And they go down a list and our dispatch calls them on a rotation. It was discussed that maybe we would put one tow company on a one-day rotation, and that day they would work all of the collisions and all the tows that day. Had a discussion with all the operators, and they said that might not be a good idea for them due to scheduling issues and trying to meet those response times if they had one day only with the amount of trucks they have. So we just talked about how if we keep it right now the same way as all the other agencies, CHP, Santa Barbara County Sheriffs, on the every day, every tow company call, they can meet those response times easier. And that's the most important part, right? Keep traffic flowing in the city. I'm going to show you a few abbreviations so you know what I mean up here right now. What I noticed the most is we are below the maximum cap for the fees for towing, light duty towing, and the storage of vehicles. I feel like we should be even with CHP and Santa Barbara County Sheriffs. So I looked through that. These 4 things are what I'm going to show you: the light duty towing, and then the light storage, the medium storage, and the heavy storage. So right now, light duty towing, CHP and Santa Barbara Sheriff range from $325 to $370 an hour, and we're at $330, so we're well below. Tow companies do not have to use this fee schedule. This is the max that they could charge. Some of them use a little lower rate to be more competitive, but I am asking the commission to set the maximum cap above what we do right now, and I'll go through that at the end, just so we can be in the same range as the other local agencies. It's only fair. I've heard sometimes a citizen will go to the tow yard and see the posted fee and say, why is Santa Barbara so much less? You're charging me more because this was in a Santa Barbara County Sheriff area or a CHP area. So I'm trying to keep that even and fair. The storage for light duty vehicle, storage for light vehicle, Santa Barbara County Sheriff and CHP 100 to 135, we're at 100. Storage for medium, CHP, Santa Barbara County Sheriff 100 to 150, and we're 135. And then the heavy, Santa Barbara County Sheriff and CHP 175 to 180, we're at 165. After looking at the ranges, this is what I proposed here. It's just the maximum rate. $30 increase for light duty tow, So we can bring it up to 360, and we can be in that range to be similar to the other agencies in our area. Increasing the light-duty storage, $25, so it can bring that up to $125. And then $10 increase for medium and heavy, so it brings that up $145 for medium and $175 for heavy. Just to keep, like I said, keep that within the same range as Santa Barbara County Sheriff and CHP. A lot of info thrown at you really quick, but I just think I want to keep it fair for all the tow companies. We want them to stay in business. We need their help. We have them come respond to all our calls, and we need that for I don't know how to say that. Just for the peace of mind for the city. Like when traffic stops, people freak out. So we want those tows as soon as possible so we can get the traffic flowing.
There's a couple different pieces to it, just to add on to what Ed has shared, is that, we want to make sure that we're also, they provide a service to the city, that they're being fairly compensated. And I think that's fairly compensating them because they have fuel costs, they have driver costs. So we use what other agencies use to make sure we're range, like the state sets that for throughout the state. But we want to make sure that they're being fairly compensated for their costs as well. And then, when he's referring to, getting vehicles out of traffic, that's also important. But they also do all of our parking tows. So when we get a call of someone's blocking someone's driveway and a tow is necessary, these folks are the ones that respond. So if their response time's an hour, that's someone waiting an hour to be able to get their own car out of their driveway often. So yes, they respond to traffic collisions, but they also respond to all of our other tow requests. So that's why you see that there's light, heavy, medium, depending on if we're towing an RV, if we're towing a regular passenger vehicle, if, it's a rollover and it can't be towed behind a light. There's a lot of different factors that go into what kind of truck responds to the location and for what it's for. So just to give you a little more perspective, it's, yes, it's all our collisions, but it's also all of our parking complaints too. And we average, Officer Casper did a great job of breaking them down, but we average anywhere between 10 to 15 tows a day. So that is an average. We actually looked at how many per day, every day per the week, but just to give you an idea, because I know sometimes you're like, well, how many are we actually towing? But our average per day is between 10 and 15 throughout the week.
I have a question.
Okay, so now do we have any public comment?
Chair Herlinger, we do not have any in-person or online public comment.
Do we have any questions or comments from commissioners?
I have a question. I don't think it's coming up. It's showing on my screen and not yours.
I would just turn their thing on and speak.
Well, then Lizzie would.
It's showing up on my screen. Gary, and then me.
Commissioner Dozer, it's because you're still the chair technically for this meeting. Yeah,
Yes.
so I apologize for that.
I'll just watch your screen. Gary?
Okay.
Okay, I have a bunch of questions. I think the first one is, do we have any data that we should be considering regarding the compliance of these various tow companies with the time periods that are scheduled, and with also you mentioned that they don't have to charge the maximum rate. Do we have any data about when they are or are not charging the maximum rate, what amount of the time they charge the maximum rate?
So when it comes to their response times, we're now tracking those response times to make sure, because there is language in the tow rotation that if they're not meeting those response times, then we can remove them from, there's a set, we would come back and there's a set of disciplinary guidelines if they're not meeting those. But what we're trying to do now is, because we haven't met with the operators in a couple years, we're trying to regroup and make sure we're all on the same page with our response times, make sure we're meeting those response times, and then we can absolutely, part of that is when Ed does his inspection, he's looking at what they're charging. If someone has a complaint about what they're being charged, if they're not being charged appropriately, there's an avenue for that.
Are those complaints, how are those complaints handled? Do they come to the city or?
Those complaints would come to me. I've yet to have any complaints from any citizens about that.
Makes it easy.
Yes, it does.
There was a reference in one of the earlier meetings, and I don't know whether it was just an offhand comment, about the question of what to do if the first, as I understand, this is a rotating list. So whoever is up next gets the call. What to do if they do not roll out in time, whether you just simply stretch out the time or whether you can call another next on the list to fill in.
We do that. We rotate to the next person on the list.
And when's that? At the end of the response time, or how's that determined?
Often the tow companies will advise that they will be delayed, and then they know that you can go ahead and call the next person on the list because they're out of trucks or they're out of drivers, and they will let us know. So then usually our dispatch will let us know that tow company's unavailable. We're dispatching the next on-call tow company.
Okay. And then another simple question. You gave the rates for storage. Is that per diem or for the length of time of the storage? I don't know which it is.
Per day.
Aaron, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for all the tow operators, all the folks, all the work that you do. I know I've had some personal experience, and it's always been very compassionate and very kind, so I appreciate it. So just a couple quick questions. First, are all the tow companies that operate in Santa Barbara listed in the rotation?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And then, just so I'm clear, because Chief, you'd mentioned this before, the difference between light, medium, and heavy is the size of the vehicle being towed?
It's the size of the tow truck
Or the size of the tow truck?
based on the needs of the vehicle,
Okay, gotcha.
correct?
Yes.
Okay, that makes more sense. And then, all the money that's generated that you were proposing the increase to, obviously this has to go to city council, but they're proposing an increase to, does that all go to the tow companies?
That is the fees that they are setting for them, not for us.
Okay. I think that's it, thank you.
Okay, just for clarification, are you asking the commission to accept the recommendations? Barbara?
Chair Herlinger, yes, it would be a motion to accept the staff recommendation.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept the
Wait,
staff
I have a question.
recommendation.
I have a question.
Okay, you may ask your question.
We're messed up because he's not getting this. So anyways, I'm curious if the tow operators themselves agree with what's being suggested as far as the increase in fees.
When we discussed the fees,
Yes.
they felt like it should be within the same range as CHP and Santa Barbara County Sheriff.
So fair to say they're in agreement? Okay, I see heads nodding. Yes, thank you.
Okay, now, I will make a motion that we accept the staff recommendation for the new fees.
I will second that.
Okay, vote. Yes. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, next agenda item, number 8.
Item 8, review of draft 2025 Fire and Police Commission work plan.
Do we have any public comment?
Chair Herlinger, just a note in terms of Robertson's Rule of Order, it's the staff presentation
First
and then
the
public comment.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
got it.
Makes sense.
Commissioners, I can zoom here. Here we go. So Commissioners, we are in process of creating our annual work plan for 2025. And as mentioned, this is required per ordinance assigning new duties and authorities to the Fire and Police Commission. So we are to submit our annual report on community oversight and work plan to City Council every year. So we have had some adjustments in the schedule, and right now we're slated for City Council on March 18th. So we have this meeting as well as next meeting to work and finalize the draft work plan. So this is really meant to take the feedback received at a November meeting about what you would like to see prioritized as part of the work plan, talk about the current draft, and make any additions or refinements to these proposed objectives today. So in the current draft is to identify and implement ways in which the community can engage more in the efforts of the work of the Fire and Police Commission. And I can refine that statement a little bit more too, in the efforts of the work of the Fire and Police Commission. So really this is sentiments that you've shared of continuing to build that bridge in relationship with the broader community, diverse audiences, stakeholder groups, community organizations, and really, again, to create more and facilitate more engagement with the work that we do here monthly, as well as outside of these monthly meetings. So this is really making sure that we're reaching the folks that we feel would be, beneficially impacted by the work of the commission overall. Another piece of this is to publicize the meetings more broadly and ensure that the public has access to all relevant data and meeting materials. This is, again, feedback that we receive from commissioners of making our both webpage that we currently have more accessible, as well as resources in general more accessible. The presentations and the content that we speak to during these meetings really have broad implications citywide, and also help build broader community understanding. So we want to make sure that the access is where it needs to be, and this includes you helping assess the existing platforms that we have and utilize as the city, how we can better leverage those platforms, expand the networks that we utilize, and if necessary, create new mechanisms to share that information. The third planning objective was brought up again at a November meeting of really going deeper and understanding the investigatory process for complaints of police misconduct and use of force incidents. So really taking the opportunity to explore your authority to discuss investigations once they're disclosable and under particular categories of the penal code section that you have available to you. So we would coordinate and collaborate together with the police department to identify investigations that we could further discuss and facilitate those conversations with commissioners. The last piece is, again, another request that came up of how we're utilizing the public statement, the ability to make public statements. And really, the intention behind creating this as part of the ordinance was, when something of significance occurs in our community, what is the role of commission, and building that bridge again with the broader public, and having them understand the role of the commission as it relates to those significant incidents. We've been practicing and utilizing the public statements in other particular areas, issues of concern in the community, and how we can facilitate that moving forward. So that is what I captured just from your feedback in November. Happy to capture any other priorities that you want to add to this work plan or refine what's currently there.
Okay, now do we have any public comment?
Chair Herlinger, we do not have any in-person or online public comments.
Okay, any questions or comments from commissioners?
I just want to chime in that, Barbara, I think that you've captured what we've discussed, and I think that they're good broad topics to include a lot of more granular things to dig into. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with what you said. But I'm just remembering back that I think in the last work plan, we had a series of goals.
Mm-hmm.
And have you looked at that list? Some of these seem to be familiar to that, but I don't know whether they've incorporated all of the goals that were in the 2024 work plan into the 2025 work plan?
So Vice Chair Hill, at next month's meeting, I'll do a annual report on community oversight. So it is partly to go back to our last work plan and see what we've accomplished. A couple of these are new iterations of community engagement, which you prioritized in your previous work plan. In November, I also did a progress report of where we were in terms of status. So the tow operating policies and procedures was one area that was still remaining on our work plan. We accomplished that today. There's one area outstanding just in terms of our general policies and procedures, so we can carry that over. But for the most part, we did pretty well on our work plan from the last year and a half.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll do that comprehensive update at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, Madam Clerk.
Item 9, Santa Barbara Fire Department Incident Reporting Data.
Good morning, Fire Commissioner, or excuse me, good afternoon. Almost time to go home. Fire Commissioners. Chris Males, your Fire Chief, this afternoon. Very brief report on our quarterly statistics. Next month, we have our annual statistics, and we'll be spending more time and digging deeper into all of our call types, what happened with the entire year as far as incident response, training, prevention, basically everything the fire department did within a year. But we're going to take a close little snapshot at the fourth quarter, so October through December. A couple of highlights for the quarter. We had several structure fires. Again, this is from August to December. We had mutual aid deployment to the mountain fire, which started near Camarillo, burned into Camarillo. We spent several days with apparatus on that incident. We were fortunate to welcome 7 new firefighters into the department. They graduated December 19th after our academy, and they are on the floor. All 7 are on the floor working as firefighters now. On December 19th, we held a promotion and badge pinning ceremony. And we got a little bit ahead of ourselves. We started, we were going to outline the incidents, the Palisades fire, the Eaton fire, but we realized, oh, actually that started January 7th. So that was the first quarter of 2025. So we'll be talking a lot more next month about our response to those incidents, which are ongoing as of right now. So as it says, we have had a major deployment to both the Eaton and Palisades fire, and we continue to have resources assigned there now. So for the data report, for the next few slides, I know you've all met Division Chief Brian Fetterman, but he is going to go into our incident response data for quarter 4.
Good evening, Commissioners. The slide above shows the quarter 4 incident responses for our fire department, covering the various response type calls that we have in the city. Again, when I put these together, I look at the previous quarter to look for trends, and we continue to be a very consistent fire department as far as fire and emergency response to our community. The percentage and call totals are spot on, and we continue to have just a 1 to 2% uptick in total call volume each quarter, which is a common trend for the year. Next slide, please. The next slide goes over our turnout time. So when the fire personnel are dispatched to a call, how long does it take for them to get to the fire apparatus and go en route? And you'll see it's broken up across 3 of our shifts with about an average in the 80-second area for our turnout time. A little bit of an uptick from last quarter, and there can be a lot of variables associated depending on the amount of PPE the crew has to put on depending on the call type. So those are things that we can drill down into as an agency and review. And then our travel times continue to be very consistent across the community, which is also a very unique trend, as you all know, with different driving patterns and response routes and some complex streets. That's a very good average time that we have for our fire personnel to get to those in need. Next slide. These are the quarter 4 training hours for the department, and you see 2 big numbers. We wanted to highlight, as the chief mentioned, we brought on 7 new fire recruits, and they went through a 10-week in-house orientation academy before they were available to work on the floor. And that time consisted of our training battalion chief and training captain focused on that 10-week process, as well as several members of our organization providing the mentoring and the coaching and the training to these 7 new recruits. And in total, almost 2,700 hours of time focused in that 10 weeks. So a lot of effort and a lot of work to really quickly get these folks brought up to speed, get them on the apparatus and ready to work. And then in addition to those hours is the 2,400 hours of just ongoing continued training for our operational personnel, both required by state, federal requirements, as well as just our own initiatives and mission of our organization. Next is the community outreach, which we're very involved in. Overall, we had 22 different events in the last quarter. Several hundred folks in our community that were touched through these different outreaches. And some really unique ones this time of year. Toys for Tots is a really good one that we get to partner with. The continued school events, extinguisher training and fire safety training. We also partnered with Girls Inc. and brought them out to Fire Station 1 where they got to meet with some of our fuels crew members and kind of see just a little different side of the fire service, as well as maybe some career opportunities that might interest them. And continued community emergency response team classes at the Santa Barbara City College. So lots of events. Good.
I said it'd be brief, super brief, but before we close out, I just want to, in light of all the fires that have been happening in Southern California, I wanted to remind the public locally that readysbc.org is the website that allows citizens to sign up for notifications when an incident occurs in a variety of methods. And it is the most up-to-date site where they can find information on any current events that are occurring. We get asked all the time, where is the best source of information? And no, I don't have any stock in this company, but I can tell you that Watch Duty is the gold standard of dissemination of information regarding incidents. In fact, I can tell you that just today, we learned about a fire in Ventura County that was threatening Cal State University Channel Islands, and how did we learn about that? We got a ping on our phone. And so the first notification that I knew about that came to our phone, that Watch Duty had started tracking this incident. It is extremely comprehensive. They have not only fire information, but they have evacuation information, and it's done really quickly. They have a phenomenal staff. And then I also wanted to talk about PulsePoint. PulsePoint actually is a app that technically was born to advise citizens of any community needs for CPR or an AED. That's the premise of how it started. However, it is an app that displays all of the incidents that the fire department is going to. It's done by agency, so you can track Santa Barbara County, you can track Santa Barbara City Fire. There is some confidentiality involved. They do not give the actual numerical address of an incident. It will just say medical emergency, State Street. If you zone in on the map, it'll give you the approximate area, but that has been a concern of the public of, is my actual house number being displayed? And in cases of medical emergencies, it's not. So, but it does give you the general idea of an incident. I can tell you when I'm at home and I hear a siren, I go to PulsePoint and look and see where they're going. So 3 excellent apps that can keep the public informed with not only locally, but even state and nationally what's happening in our area. And with that, we'll take any questions you have.
Do we have any public comment?
Chair Herlinger, we don't have any online or in-person public comments.
Okay. Questions from commissioners? Gary?
Showing my lack of geekiness, when I went on to try to get it to PulsePoint, there were half a dozen pulse points that showed up on the Apple site, some of which had to do with measuring your pulse rate, some of which had to do with...
Thank you for that. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Is there any way you can narrow me down to the one we want?
It's actually PulsePoint Respond is what you want to look for. The icon has the heart, but it's PulsePoint Respond, and I'm happy to show you after also. But you're right, there's definitely how to check your heart rate. That's not the one. Yeah, thank you for that question.
Okay.
Aaron?
Thank you, gentlemen. Quick question. So when there's a mutual aid event that you're sending support to, like, how do you balance that versus like who stays, who goes, how many people you send, and but also keeping a sizable, representable number of folks here just in case something happens?
So the first thing is that, as a fire department, our primary mission is to the citizens of Santa Barbara. Every department will tell you that. Having a large number of, just as an example, Santa Barbara resources deploy to Los Angeles leaves us short here. And we know that as pessimists, that means the next incident's going to happen and we're not prepared. So with that said, the mutual aid system in the entire United States is the envy of the world. Is it perfect? No. But is it outstanding? Yes, it is. The way it works is, and the way I like to describe it to people is, let's look at a chessboard. Let's put the incident in the middle of the chessboard. What the incident will do is try to use local resources first, just like we do. House fire, we use our local resources. As the incident increases in magnitude, the incident doesn't do it, but there are ordering points. And these ordering points, these central areas within California, go to the different squares on the chessboard, and they say, Santa Barbara County, we have a need for X, Y, and Z. And Santa Barbara County will say, we will send you X, Y, and Z. As the incident progresses and progresses and progresses, that chessboard gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're extending out farther to ask if more resources can come. That's why with the fires down south, you saw Seattle, you saw Mexico, you saw Utah. Okay, that's a rarity. The majority of the fires extend out a few counties, and we handle them that way. So just think, is the bigger it gets, the bigger the ask or the farther out the ask is. Each county has a live data set of not only what fire engines are available, but each person on that fire engine is set every single morning. So say when Los Angeles County calls and they say, we need a structure engine, internally in our department, we already know who's going to go. It's in the system, including what engine and all the names. And so it's literally a bam, that's who you're getting. So we're not going to get, I don't have time to get into all the different types of agreements there are, but essentially that's how it works. They start close, but they don't want to take everyone out of every square. They can't do that. So we literally grab small increments from each geographic area and move them to the incident.
A related question, how, if at all, is the economics of this shared arrangement handled?
So the economics are that each agency is reimbursed for all and everything that they send. It could be via a federal agreement or it could be via a state agreement. But when we send resources, our folks are paid by the incident from the time they leave to the time they come back. It's not only the personnel costs, but we're actually paid for the apparatus. It's not a money maker. We don't go to the bank and think of it as revenue because we're also paying the paychecks from the city, but the incident reimburses us, whether that's federal or state.
So it's covering costs, basically?
Covering costs, yes.
Does it manage to cover all of them?
Yes. Yeah, and in fact, so we charge for each position on the fire apparatus. Let's just say we send a fire engine. We send 4 people. They reimburse for the captain, the engineer, and both firefighters at our cost. They pay for the engine, and then they also pay for a negotiated administrative fee, which covers things like payroll, work comp, all the additional administrative stuff that the department has to do. You know, it goes through our business manager, it goes through our admin assistant. There's a lot of back information that needs to get put into the system so we make sure that we are reimbursed. Just as an example, it could be the federal. It could be we go to a forest. Albuquerque is the location of the reimbursement center, and so we end up dealing with Albuquerque, and sometimes it takes months to get reimbursed. But we are reimbursed.
You anticipated my next question in your last answer, which is, what's the lag from?
So it's gotten a lot quicker. Up until 2 years ago, it was paper copies. We would, the crews would come home with a piece of paper, and we would have to input the information, and weeks later, now it's all done on computer. Before the crew even leaves, it's been uploaded in the state to a system called MARS, M-A-R-S, Mutual Aid Reimbursement System. And just within a few hours to days, it'll hit my desk to approve that time that the crews were gone. And we're reimbursed very quickly.
Very impressive. Thank you.
You bet.
Commissioner Dozer?
I just wanted a little bit more information on, you identified, congratulations, 7 new firefighters. My question is, are they actually new to the career, or are they at all laterals with experience? And what is the gender breakdown of those hires?
I apologize, Commissioner Dozer. We really do need to stay within the scope of this agenda items. It's about response times. It's not a general report on the fire department for this agenda.
Oh,
item.
I'm sorry. I thought I could ask because they brought it up.
Well, I'm trying to let us go into the issue, but we need to be careful, making sure we stay within the scope of the agendized item. So sorry
Withdrawn.
about that.
I'm going to try a question and see if it gets past him. Can you give us a status report of the centralized response, the Emergency Operations Center that we've been working on? And
Are you referring to the Regional Dispatch Center?
yes.
Yeah, so the Regional Dispatch Center is moving forward. The building has been completed. The holdup right now, and the reason that we haven't moved into the center, is that the state 911 system, they are moving from an analog, what they call copper-based 911 system, to what's called next-gen 911. And that is a computer-based, even cloud-hosted 911 system that when it moves into our center, the regional center, we will be the 3rd in the state to have this new system. It's fairly well known that the system has had some difficulties, and there's been some delays. So unfortunately, the 911 system stands at the top. Other than the physical building, the 911 system is what's most important before the computer-aided dispatch can be built out, before the radio system can be built out. So they are working as quickly as possible to put the 911 system into the center. They're hoping to have that accomplished by the end of February, and they are looking at this point sometime April or May for us to move to the regional center. It's really important, and I feel protective in a sense that it's not the fault of any of the fire departments in the county nor the regional center. The hang-up has been with Cal OES and the next-gen 911 system that's being put in.
Okay. Thank you for your report. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 10, Santa Barbara Police Department Mission Strategies Report.
Well, good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Charlie Katsapis, Commander with Santa Barbara Police Department in the Community Accountability Division, and today I have the privilege to present you with 2 report outs, the first being our quarterly report on mission strategies. This will be for Q4 of 2024. This is, I think, a refresher for the Commission, but perhaps for anybody who's new joining us. Our mission strategies represent, I'd say, both our quantitative and qualitative metrics of performance for our officers. We've broken that down further into 4 categories, as you'll see here on the screen. That first category being reducing harm. Second category would be relationship building and quality of life. Third, felt presence. And the fourth is service, and collectively that represents kind of our holistic approach to community policing. So here I'll start with quadrant 1, reducing harm. You'll see that we had a slight increase, and this will be a comparison of Q4 23 to 24. A slight increase in misdemeanor arrests, up 5%. A slight increase in felony arrests, up 6%. Traffic stops were up 8%. We had about 1,000 traffic stops in Q4 of 2024. The next category there, Narcan deployments. That 33 number is actually really significant. If you know about Narcan, Narcan reverses the effects of opiate overdose. And we really see that as possibly 33 lives saved every time we deploy that, our officers do, potential of saving lives. So that's a big metric for us. Next quadrant, relationship building and quality of life. First subject there, or first metric would be our co-response calls for service and assist. Again, our co-response team is a team. It's an officer who's specially trained in response to crisis situation who's partnered with a clinician from behavioral wellness. We've got 2 of those teams. They provide 7-day-a-week coverage, and they've been a huge asset to our community. That second metric, that 55 co-response mental health follow-ups, that is relatively new to our agency. I'd say about a year in. And what that is, it's our co-response team's way of doing follow-up casework to ensure that people are receiving their support, either folks who've had mental health crisis or as a proactive measure to support those who might need us in that capacity. Next would be a 22% increase in parking citations. So you'd see we had about 10,729 parking citations issued in the fourth quarter of 2024. And I saved this one for last because I think it's probably the most exciting of the entire presentation. But we have a new position that we started in late October, early November. That's our community engagement coordinator. And I think the commission knows this, but one thing that Chief Gordon's incredibly passionate about is community engagement. And that has been reflected in our department's culture. And really this position is it's a full-time 40-hour-a-week position with the intent to both continue with current initiatives revolving community engagement and also starting some new ones. And so Samantha Acosta is in that position now, and I think our goal is to come back to the commission once this position's got a few months under its belt with a report out on how we're doing there. So looking forward to a lot more community engagement and public involvement in that. This next category, felt presence. You'll see a 66% increase in focus area or directed patrols. What focus area directed patrols are, generally they're driven by either data, so crime data or stats, or community concern. And what this is, it's a proactive effort by our officers to go out and address that data or those community concerns proactively. The VIP hours there, 917 for Q4 of 2024. Again, our volunteers in policing, that's a completely volunteer group that provides a service to our community with felt presence. These are the folks you'll see in kind of the gray uniforms, frequently downtown quarter, farmers market, or at other events. The last section would be our service section. The priority 1, 2, 3, and 4 you see there, those are our call prioritization numbers. So priority 1 calls for service. We have a 7-minute response time goal. You can see that we met that at 5.7 minutes for that quarter. For priority 2 calls, we have a 14.5-minute goal, and we made that at 14.5. Priority 3 calls, we have a 30-minute goal. We are over there at 43.5. And for priority 4 calls, we have a 50-minute response time goal, and we are slightly over at 57.6. I do want to point out that we did have a 10% increase in calls for service compared to last year during that quarter. That might not seem like a big number, but if you do the math there, that's nearly 800 more calls for service in that time frame. So that's actually a lot of work for officers to handle compared to last year. And then the last metric we have here is this is our on-view calls for service at 4,685. On-view calls for service are not calls that are generated by the public calling 911 or a non-emergency line. These are calls that are generated by officers who are going out and doing work on their own, so proactive work by our officers. And that concludes our Q4 2024 report out on mission strategies. Thank you.
Public comment?
Chair Herlinger, we do not have any in-person or online public comments.
Okay, questions or comments from commissioners?
Quick question, not sure if you can answer it, but any idea what you might attribute the small increase in both the misdemeanor and felony arrests to?
Sorry, Chair Dozer. tried to drill down the heat maps to see where those arrests are occurring, if there are any trends there. I didn't really notice anything that was really relevant with either. I think with the felony arrest, perhaps, we talked about this a little bit at our last meeting. There is a slight increase in probation, parole, hold arrests, which stat as felonies, and that can sometimes be attributed to more proactive police work. So sometimes when you see on-view calls for service going up or focused area checks going up, you might also see a slight increase in arrest for folks that we contact who might be probation and parole status and out of compliance, which status felonies. But other than that, not anything that I saw that was really relevant for either category.
Thank you.
Also note, with a 10% increase in calls for service, you would expect to see our arrests go up. That's a
Logical correlation.
It's a logical correlation that may not translate into a specific heat map.
Sure.
But when you see that big of an increase in your calls for service, you would expect to also see your activity increase.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hill?
This may have already been answered, so I have to use this thing. How does the on-view calls for service in this quarter compare with either preceding quarters or the previous year? So I try to get some measure of that.
I'm looking at my notes to see if I can answer that quickly for you. I'd have to probably get back to you on that. Well, let's see. So, yeah, you know what? Unfortunately, I think I'd have to get back to you on that. I'm not really sure how that would stat out compared to last year.
Okay, thank you.
I just had a question about the Narcan deployments. Is that going up or down or stable or what?
I believe compared to last quarter, it's slightly up. I think we were in the 20s last quarter that we reported out on. So it varies, but I think a range of 20 to about 40 is what we generally see.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Good report. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item 11, quarterly reports on complaints of police misconduct.
Again, Commissioners, Charlie Katsapis with San Barbara PD. This will be our second report out here, and as mentioned, this will be our quarterly report on complaints, again, for quarter 4 of 2024. And again, this is part of the additional oversight duties of the Commission per the Municipal Code. The first section of aggregate data we'll look at would be the number of complaints that the department received for sworn personnel during quarter 4. That's the period of October 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2024. For that period of time, we received 3 administrative complaints and 0 citizen complaints. The second section of aggregate data would be surrounding the number of PSU investigations that we were actively working during quarter 4 of 2024. During that period of time, that same period of time, we had active and open 3 citizen complaints and a total of 5 administrative complaints. And below that, you will see the relevant policy sections of those investigations. That would include use of force, search and seizure, department prohibited discriminatory conduct, discourteous or disrespectful treatment, failure to take responsible action while on duty, violations of criminal statute, nepotism, and conflicting relationships. And that concludes this report.
Thank you. Congratulations on no citizen reports. New ones this quarter. Okay, any public comment?
Chair Herlinger, we do not have any in-person or online public comments.
Okay. Comments or questions? Commissioner Hill?
I don't have one.
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Another great report. Madam Clerk, next item on the
Item
agenda.
12, commission and staff communications.
So we wanted to, I sent a message to the commission, to our commissioners and to the chief requesting information with regards to what local law enforcement responsibilities and engagement are as it pertains to potential federal law enforcement action, whether it's ICE or CBD. So I know that there's been some information that's going to be potentially coming back. I know that legal counsel wants to chime in on it as well, but it was suggested that this would be the space by which to at least publicly air that question, and I know that there's more information coming, and I also know that there's a lot of anxiety and concern in the community about, and a need to know about how federal law interacts with state law and what that means for the responsibility of local law enforcement, so.
Okay, so I think it was the consensus of the commission that we have some type of communication report at our next meeting.
Thank you, Chair Hurlinger. There will be follow-up communication with commissioners as well as future agenda planning. Where's that?
Okay, is there any other comments? I just want to say I did attend the fire promotion and pinning, and it was very, very good. Very impressive. So, and a huge crowd. You don't expect to see that many people out for that type of an event, so I was very impressed. Anything else?
I have a few comments. Sorry, late hour. First, we all, I think, wanted to recognize and thank police and fire personnel, not only those in the LA County area, but also all of you for participating and helping and doing what you did and doing what you do via mutual aid, and this has just been a devastating time. So, number one, recognition and thank you. Number two, maybe future, we can get an update on fire department personnel, recruitment and retention. And number three, I wanted to share just a quick public statement that the commission drafted, and I will read through it as quickly as I can here. On Thursday, November 21st, 2024, the Fire and Police Commission heard from staff representing the city administrator's office and the fire department regarding the increasing number of sidewalk and roadside food vendors that are operating in violation of the city's ordinance and in turn impacting public health, safety, and the environment. Examples of these violations include operating in the public right-of-way with open flames, setting up tables blocking pedestrian and ADA access, as well as illegal discharge of content such as oil and grease into storm drains, causing environmental damage to our waterways. The Commission also heard from members of the public about the negative impacts of these types of violation. The Commission understands the importance of bringing such a critical and timely matter to the forefront of its public meetings and appreciates the City Administrator's Office, Fire Department, and Police Department for the opportunity to learn more about the issues that are affecting the community. The Commission also wants to acknowledge and applaud those vendors operating legally and following the requirements of the city's ordinance who serve as models for all vendors to follow. The Fire and Police Commission encourages the continued prioritization of this issue by mayor and council and recommends additional resources to be allocated to address it. To learn more information about sidewalk vending in the city, you can go Spanish and English to a website. That's all.
Okay, if there are no objections, this brings us to the end of the Fire and Police Commission on January 23rd. This meeting is adjourned at 5:03.